Hello and welcome to the Royal United Services Institute. I'm Jonathan Isle here in London, and we are very honored to be joined today by His Excellency Mr. Giorgi Gakharia, the Prime Minister of Georgia. As we all know, Georgia has been in the forefront of an aggression by Russia over a decade ago. And in the last few days, we've been reminded about the tensions which still exist on that corner of Europe, as mercifully Georgia has succeeded in keeping out of another confrontation that is raging at the moment between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It is a great pleasure to welcome the Prime Minister to us today, to be able to address us on Georgia's pro-Western orientation, the battle that has been going on since the country regained its independence at the end of the Soviet Union, the battle that is still being fought as we speak, at least mercifully now, in diplomatic terms. I hope the Prime Minister will tell us about his country's activities and orientation, and I hope you would agree that there is no better time than to hear the Prime Minister now. Let me remind our members who are participating in this discussion about the rules of the game. This discussion, it was by invitation only, and the recording will only be available to those who have attended it. If you have any questions to the Prime Minister, please use the Q&A function on this particular platform. Please state your affiliation and name and put your question to me. I will endeavor to accommodate as many questions as possible. Now, as you all know, Mr. Gakharia had a long record of government service in various government departments, and I think he has just completed his first year in office as Prime Minister, facing elections in the last day of this month. So we're particularly grateful that he was able to take the time out of his busy schedule to be with us. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of Georgia.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for this opportunity. And let me underline that we highly value Russia, the world's oldest and one of the most important leading defense and security think tank. And it's a great honor for me to have a chance to address this society. Today, I will try to elaborate on the issues of current importance of my country, first of all, of course, of Georgia. But I would like to few words add about more about the region. But first of all, of course, we will talk about occupation and hybrid threats. Very important part for us is Georgia's new role in the wider Black Sea region, Euro-Atlantic integration, and so on. First of all, when it comes to the occupation, we all understand that we are operating in a very challenging region and very eclectic region. And Georgia, with two occupied regions, Abkhazia and Khin Valley region, face a number of very serious security challenges. And this is our everyday life. And Georgia's democratic and economic development was under the constant pressure from Russia for last decades. And even the now time with global pandemic, the problem is that we are facing the ongoing borderization process on our occupation line. Of course, the situation regarding the occupation is grave. And Russia actively implements the policy so-called borderization each and every day, as I mentioned previously. At the same time, we and our citizens on both sides of occupation line, they are facing kidnappings, detentions, and even killings. Russia constantly violates agreement of 2008 EU, and at the same time, as a fact, we at this moment have 11,000 troops and 2 fully operational military bases in the country in occupation zones. And of course, we have 500,000 IDPs and refugees in the country still cannot return to their homes. And when we are talking about occupation, for us very important and very risky is increasing threats to the non-recognition policy. And during the last years, Russia increased its pressure to financially and politically vulnerable countries in this regard, to get from them the recognition of Georgia's occupied territories. And this is what we are facing each and every day, even in pandemic time. When it comes to the hybrid threats, of course, we have been always seriously challenged from Russia's side regarding the hybrid threats. From today, we are facing the disinformation campaign each and every day, and this is most important part of hybrid domain at this moment in the country. You know that the Georgia's management fighting against COVID has been recognized as a successful, but at the same time, we are facing the, for example, cyber attack from side of Russia directly and targeted healthcare system of the country. First of all, the Lugar lab, which was the most important part of our fight against the COVID. Talking about the cyber security, we all know and we all remember the attacks during the August war in 2008. The recent challenge we faced was the large-scale cyber attack of October 28. It was in 2019 and targeted a number of websites of Georgian public and private sector. And the latest one, as I mentioned previously, they targeted the Ministry of Health and particularly this Lugar lab. When it comes to the cyber, we of course understanding this very important part belongs of support of our allies in this regard, because the resources of Georgia in cyber domain is very limited, so we rely on support of our friends. Very important part for us when it comes to the security and Euro-Atlantic aspiration of the country. This is, of course, the new dimension for us, the Black Sea. Black Sea becomes a very important part for us in several dimensions. In general, now, even we are talking that the Georgia has to rediscover Black Sea for his foreign policy and security. We all understand how the Black Sea environment has been changed for the last several years. I mean, from Tskhinvali's occupation, from Crimea's occupation. And of course, we all understand that the Black Sea becomes a very important part for security infrastructure of the West. And that's why when we are talking about the Black Sea, we see the opportunity for Georgia to figure out the new role serving as a reliable partner, security partner for Europe and the United States, as well as NATO. When we are talking about Black Sea, we see our new role in three main dimensions, such as political, economic, and of course, security. As we all know, we have pretty good legal framework, pretty good political relations with European Union. But unfortunately, I mean, first of all, very important tools such as DCFTA, such as association agreements, such as free visa regime. But at the same time, we all understand that unfortunately, Georgia doesn't have the land border with the EU. And this is the real challenge. When we are talking about Black Sea, we mean that we have to physically connect Georgia to the EU. And this will be a win-win project for everyone. And when it comes to the security for us and our role in the Black Sea security, this is a new opportunity in cooperation with NATO and our strategic allies. That's why for us, everything connected with Black Sea is so important. And when we are talking about the connectivity, we have an ambition to serve as a regional platform for enhancing the connectivity and creating the Georgia as a platform for connection Europe to the east. This is a role of our country. And when we are talking about the connectivity, we are talking about different dimensions: economy, trade, transportation, and everything. So for us, Black Sea, this is something like the window of opportunity. And from Black Sea, of course, we have to continue talks about the Euro-Atlantic aspiration of the country. We all know that the Georgia citizens support Euro-Atlantic aspiration more than 85%. And European and Euro-Atlantic aspiration is the key priority for Georgia's foreign policy agenda. And this is a historical choice of our nation. And at the same time, this is a process of democratization of society. And at the same time, we fully realize that the structural reforms we are implementing at this moment, maybe we have our homework, maybe we will have to continue the structural reforms more new decades. But anyway, we are ready to do everything for bringing country in line of European standards. And when we are talking about Euro-Atlantic integration, of course, the first dimension, this is the European integration. And yes, we have at this moment the practical tools, association agreement, the CFTA, visa liberalization process. But for us, it's time to make the next step. And now we are starting to discuss with European Union the new agenda, not only for Eastern Partnership, which was very successful for us also, but we think that for associated countries there should be the new tools for enhancing the cooperation and with the European Union. And additional and other dimension of Euro-Atlantic integration of the country, of course, the membership. I mean the NATO. Yes, the NATO-Georgia cooperation has been very dynamic for the last several years. Yes, we enjoyed very, very effective cooperation with NATO. For last years, we had very important several exercises, but at the same time, we see some kind of weakness in terms of political agenda of in Georgia and NATO's cooperation. And for us, Euro-Atlantic aspiration, which is reflected in the constitution of our country, has two dimensions: the European integration and, of course, membership in the NATO. We fully realize that there is no political readiness at this moment, but at the same time, we have to fix that. We are committed to continue this, because this is a country which is ready to continue structural reforms with full understanding that we have to reform country, bringing the country in line to the European standards. But at the same time, it's well known that when it comes to NATO, Georgia is practically prepared for membership. But we understand how important is the process of democratization, and in NATO's direction also we are ready and we are committed to continue these structural reforms in the country. When we are talking about the security in the region, of course, it's today it's simply impossible to avoid the real conflict we are facing in the region between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Of course, peace in the South Caucasus region. This is very critical for us. At the same time, this story shows that there is no notion of so-called frozen conflict. It simply takes 1 day, 1 week to unfold the conflicts. That's why it's so dangerous. That's why for us, everything is happening between our neighbors at this moment is so risky, not only for Georgia, for all region. And even more, we think that it's very risky for wider Black Sea region, because for last 10 days, we do not see the real messages for decreasing the temperature and tension in the region. And unfortunately, when we do not see the involvement of big states in this process. And we all understand how risky it is, because we all understand that the both sides of conflict are backing by their allies. And the most risky we are facing at this moment is the involvement of third countries in this conflict. It destroys all security infrastructure, not only in the region, but wider in the Black Sea. So that's why since the beginning of this escalation, we have temporarily suspended the process of issuing of permits for transiting the military cargoes through our territory, because otherwise we were facing the risk somehow to be involved in this conflict, what is completely unacceptable for Georgia. And that was the main reason why we were trying and we express our readiness to facilitate the dialogue between two sides to hosting a meeting in Tbilisi. But at the same time, we of course understand that the support from Western partners is vital in somehow decreasing the tension in the region. And of course, the main role in this should be taken by Minsk group of SEA. What about the Georgia's United Kingdom's relations? For today, the relations is absolutely brilliant, and we are grateful for United Kingdom's continued support of Georgia's territorial integrity and sovereignty. And at the same time, of course, we are grateful for United Kingdom's support of Georgia's Euro-Atlantic aspiration. By the way, in 2019, Georgia and the United Kingdom signed bilateral strategic partnership and cooperation agreement, which is very solid basis for further enhancing the cooperation between two countries. And we see the big opportunities, especially after Brexit time. So for me and for us, to have a chance to discuss on Russia's platform the Georgia's role, first of all, on wider Black Sea region, the security in the region, Georgia's Euro-Atlantic aspiration, and of course, the main point, this is the occupation of our country and threats comes from Russia. This is a very important chance for us to share our view and send the very important messages how we see the development of the country for next years, at least for next 4 years. So, Jonathan, once again, thank you so much. And of course, I'm ready if there is some questions.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for a very wide presentation in which you mentioned both the persistence of Georgia's efforts to join European and Euro-Atlantic structures, but also the fact that Georgia is not just sitting and waiting for the decisions taken back at the NATO Bucharest summit in 2008 for them to be realized. Time is pressing on, and there is plenty of other activities that need to be done, including Georgia's integration into the Black Sea area and into other cooperation structures. I wonder if I could start with a question put by our colleagues from the British Georgia Society here, the British Georgian Society, which is the painful issue of the occupied territories. you mentioned all the efforts that you're doing. You mentioned the salami tactics to which Georgia has been subjected. But Prime Minister, what in concrete terms do you think you can do with the international community to restore Georgian sovereignty over the entire territory of the Republic?
First of all, and very important in very difficult time for today, I mean the conflict in the region, Georgia is committed for peaceful resolution of the conflict. When we are expressing our Euro-Atlantic aspiration, when we are calling to our friends that Georgia is ready for membership in NATO, of course we understand that at the same time we should not be the bringers of risks in Western society. That's why peaceful resolution, this is the main point in our agenda. This is the first. Second, of course, we fully realize that there is no other way, only peaceful resolution of the conflict. But only one way we have at this moment, only one real tool we have. This is the democratization of the Georgian society, economic development and prosperity, and as much as possible close connection with European area. It makes Georgia more visible, successful country, and this is only one tool we are facing at this moment. At the same time, of course, we rely on support of our allies, and we understand that keeping the conflict and Georgia's agenda in Western capitals as high as possible, this is in bilateral as well as in multilateral platforms. This is very important part and very important tool. At the same time, Georgia's government introduced this special programs for the process of reconciliation between our citizens from both sides of occupation line, such as the steps for next better future. We are trying to implement special economic programs involving our citizens from other side of occupation line in different business and economic projects. We understand that maybe it will take years, but for us, it is clear. First, this is a peaceful resolution. Second, reconciliation. This is only one way. How can we get until this peaceful resolution? Close cooperation with our Eastern allies and trying to keep Georgia's occupation in agenda as high as possible in different formats. And of course, successful development country in different and each and every dimension, starting from economy and ending through example, democratization and consolidation of democracy.
As you said, Prime Minister, this is a patient, long-term effort. We have a question that is related to that from Mr. Craig Oliphant, who is a long-standing British expert on your part of Europe, and he works at the Foreign Policy Centre here in London, who's asking in exactly this connection with some of the occupied territory in the context of the COVID-19, of the current disease. And you mentioned that Georgia is proud to have performed rather well in the first stage of this infection. Are there, the disease unfortunately looks like it's going to be with us for a long period of time. So as many other European countries are discovering, a second battle is only beginning as we speak now. In this context, do you see any practical measures you can take for confidence building in the health sector between Tbilisi and Sukhumi and perhaps Tsinghvali as well, opening up across the divide movement of people for those who may be suffering from infection by the virus? So in a way, transforming this not very good situation into something that works for the benefit of Georgian unity.
First of all, unfortunately, when it comes to the Thin Valley region, all cross points are closed at this moment, and this is a real humanitarian problem at this moment. What depends on Abkhazia, we only one how can we support our citizens from that side of occupation line? We are receiving them for treating in our hospitals. This is several cases. This is the right way how we are trying to increase the confidence, but unfortunately, we do not have the real tools to support our citizens in this very challenging COVID time. And from the other hand, of course, we several times fix our readiness to support the factors as we can, sharing all experience, sharing some, delivering some equipments, etc., etc. But unfortunately, only what we can at this moment, receiving and treating our citizens from Abkhazia in Georgia.
Thank you for that. Let me turn perhaps to one domestic question that has international implications, and it comes from Ali Khan, who is a businessman here in London, who is asking, as part of your platform for enhancing connectivity, enhancing Georgia's integration into the global economy, have you thought about any relaxation in current regulations on foreign direct investments, visa reform systems, and other procedures? For instance, the establishment of a one-stop fast-track solution in order to conclude business opportunities much faster and not to be stuck with red tape.
First of all, I would like to mention that the connectivity, and there is no matter who will run the country for next 10 years, for example, the connectivity will be the top priority, because otherwise it's simply impossible to link the country with European market. And when you politically have Euro-Atlantic direction, and when we are willing to, you are a reforming country for meeting the European standards, and at the same time you have some problems with connectivity, it simply doesn't work. When it comes to the business environment, FDI or other regulations, I have to mention that Georgia is 7th in doing business ranking. This is a country in the region most friendly business environment, low taxes, low bureaucracy. There is no some kind of problems with business operating in the country. Even when it comes to visa regulations, this is a country the most friendly for indirect investments, and even more, there will not be any kind of problems with visa regulations from Georgia's side. And now what we are doing, we are making our economic regulations more easier for bringing the more investments, because we all understand that after COVID economic recovery, and the global competition will be completely different, and each and every country will try use their competitive advantages. And for us, this is the geographical location. This is the 7th place in doing business, excellent business environment, excellent regulations. So I even personally can invite the gentleman who write this question and introduce for him the business environment in the country. And what is one additional, even Georgia also ranks 12th in the Heritage Foundation's Economic Freedom Index to 2020. So, what is most important part? Georgia is a small market, but this is the only one market and only one country in the region with completely open economy. Of course, we respect each and every our neighbors, but our neighbors somehow they are protecting their markets. But Georgia, this is a completely open and completely liberal market. Of course, it was a very strong competitive advantage for previous years, bringing the FDI, bringing direct investments from neighboring countries in our country, and this was always the top priority for us. So the gentleman is more than welcome. If there needs some more information to share, we are ready.
Thank you very much for that. One further question about the domestic scene in Georgia before we move to the international one, if I may, Prime Minister, and it comes from Maggie Nicholson, formerly with the UN Human Rights and now an independent consultant. And she's asking whether the Prime Minister can say a few words about the national strategy for the protection of human rights in Georgia. Namely, what is its significance for the stability of the country, and how do you propose to promote it?
First of all, thank you for this question from Maggie. For this country, when we are talking about the structural reforms and reforming country, and when we are talking about the how can we meet the European standards, of course, the priority number one is the human rights. And of course, when we are talking about protection of human rights, we have the very important real tools. Even here in administration, I have, and we elaborate the human rights counselor with participation, respectable NGOs and different stakeholders. And this is very important platform for erasing the issues, erasing the problematic issues and solving them. When we are talking about the human rights in the country, of course, we realize that we have our homework. We have a lot to do in future, but the main directions we developed pretty much, and if we are comparing the country, I don't know, for several last years, we see the real progress. But at the same time, we understand that we have to continue, and the basis parts of human rights, rule of law, human media freedom, freedom of expression. This country has the real and tangible progress in these dimensions for last decade, and of course we are committed to continue this. And of course, this is the country, by the way, with very strong civil society, with very strong NGO sector, and that's why I'm always saying that it's simply impossible in Georgia somehow to create some problems with, I don't know, media freedom or freedom of expression. It simply do not work in this country, because the civil society and NGO sector in the country is very strong. Of course, when we are talking about the human rights, it's very important for today because of elections we are facing in several weeks, and I can assure you that the government understands how important elections will be. We understand that the free, fair, and transparent elections, this is the additional test for Georgia's democracy, and we understand, especially now when we have the new legislation of electoral legislation, I mean, more proportional system will take place, and for this time, of course, it will be very important. And free, fair, and transparent elections will be the top priority for us.
Thank you. Let us move perhaps to international questions. And I'm going to start, first of all, with what do you think Britain can do in that respect? You very kindly, Prime Minister, mentioned Britain and the bilateral relationship in your initial remarks. So I've got two questions. One is from Alex Folks here in London, who is saying that the British government is about to unveil its new strategic foreign policy direction, the so-called integrated review. And it seems clear that one of the biggest emphasis is towards the Indo-Pacific region, China in particular, but also Russia. So has there been enough of a focus on dealing with the conflict in Georgia, or indeed with the conflict among your neighbors? Or what would you want the British government to do? The second question relating to that comes from Jim Murphy, who was the minister in the Foreign Office responsible for Georgia and Russia policy during the conflict 12 years ago. And he's also asking, he says it is impressed by what your government is doing and by the Western commitment of Georgia, but he's asking, what more would you like the United Kingdom government to do in the region?
First of all, I think that after 12 years passed from 2008 war, we have to keep this conflict in agenda and on bilateral level higher and higher, because this is the reality. We also for these 12 years, when it started from Tskhinvali and occupation of Georgia, what kind of continuation it after has. We all remember Crimea, the Ukraine, now this conflict in between Azerbaijan and Armenia. We all see what does it mean escalation in the region and in wider region. We all see what kind of results we will face when the behavior of countries becomes so tough, when they are using the real war on the soil. So for us, it will be very helpful to keep the occupation and Russia's aggression on bilateral and multilateral level as high as possible, because each and every country should understand that it's simply impossible to forget. It never will be forgotten, because the occupation, this is a real risk, not only for Georgia, but wider for region. And this is how United Kingdom can already help not only Georgia, but other countries who are under such kind of risks and threats. What depends on practical level? Of course, on practical level, we have to enhance our cooperation in security field. First of all, in hybrid cyber security, because we have pretty good experience for the last 2-3 years enhancing our cooperation. And most important part is we have together to study deeper and figure out the role of Georgia in this security infrastructure on this region. And United Kingdom and other allies have to support and help us in such kind of research, because we understand that we on our side also have to be more useful for security and other interests of our friends in the region. And when we are talking about connectivity, when we are talking about physical connection between EU and Georgia, when we are talking that we are considered country as a hub, as a platform serving the interest of our allies in this region, we are talking about different dimensions. First of all, economy, trade, but security at the same time. What is the main goal? Main goal is to support the allies and letting them to increase the connectivity, first of all, and their security, making useful this platform, this infrastructure for each other. creating the environment when win-win situation becomes possible. That's why I think we have to enhance the cooperation on practical, on the operational even level. First of all, in security, because we are talking about the occupation, but at the same time, of course, in economy also, because trade and even this new policy of the United Kingdom after Brexit, we think that for us and for such countries as Georgia, this is a new window of opportunity. Through increasing the economic ties, at the same time, we can increase the security and stability for countries and for region.
Thank you. Let me turn to sort of the question of your more immediate neighbors. So I have a question from Dr. Radziborskaya, Vera Radziborskaya, adjunct professor on NATO security in Brussels. And the question is, how do you assess Russia's activities in the neighborhood, particularly in the context of the recent Kafkaz 2020 military exercises, which also incorporated, of course, South Ossetia in this particular case? So what does it tell us about Russia's intentions? And coupled with that, there's a question from Louis Raphael, who is only partially identified, who's asking about Turkey. He refers to Turkey as an increasingly authoritarian state. What do you think Georgia can do to uphold the European standards that we all need to uphold in the Black Sea region? And finally, if I may add to that, a question from Ewan Grant, who works on EU projects in the Black Sea, who's asking, what can Georgia do to expand its involvement with the European Union on projects in order to show its commitment to the Black Sea area? Lots of questions. I appreciate your answers will be most welcome. Sorry, Prime Minister, I think you are muted. Your microphone is not working.
Yes, when we are talking about the threats coming from Russia, these exercises on North Caucasus, such as Caucasus 2020, this is of course creates the real turbulence in the region. And of course, for us, it's completely not acceptable because of involvement South Ossetia region in these exercises. And at the same time, you know that it's very close timing between the exercises in Georgia with involvement in NATO and our allies Noble Partnership, and same story was this year also, and this Caucasus 2020. Unfortunately, we are only looking very carefully and study how this exercise is developing, and only what we can calling to Russia to stop these aggressions. First of all, due to South Ossetia's Abkhazia's involvement in such kind of exercises. When it comes to Turkey, for Georgia, Turkey is very close and strategic partner. Turkey is member of NATO. Turkey is a main trade partner for Georgia. And of course, we respect Turkey's vision about the regional developments. At the same time, of course, when we are talking about connectivity and when we are talking that Georgia as a country has to rediscover Black Sea, of course, we try somehow to avoid this pretty much level of uncertainty from neighbors and connect the country with European Union through Black Sea. You understand when I'm talking very carefully that we have to avoid such level of uncertainty, even between Turkey, our neighbor, strategic partner, and member of NATO and European Union, Turkey and Russia. That's why for us, Black Sea, this is only one way, and Black Sea, this is the only window of opportunity for us. When I paid the visit for, it was 1 week ago in Brussels, the main point of discussions was how can we connect Georgia directly to the EU, avoiding the third countries. And only one solution is the Black Sea. And we are started the discussions in very practical levels, such as, I don't know, electricity underwater cable connecting the Georgia's electro system with European electro system, direct maritime connections, fiber optic, everything. We have to connect Georgia through Black Sea to the EU in each and every dimension, what physically and possible. And this is how we are trying to secure our country from increasing tension in this big region, because we all understand that Georgia is a small country. What we are doing at this moment, we are trying to, with very limited resources, we are trying to convert our geographical location in real benefits for our citizens. And it means for us, how can we develop the transit function of the country? Developing the transit function of the country is simply impossible without good relations with neighbors. That's why everything connected with Black Sea, avoiding the uncertainty, covered our neighbors. This is a top priority for us.
Thank you very much, and very clear. Connected to that, I have a question from Madeleine Moon, who was a long-serving British member of Parliament and the former president of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. And she's asking about the 1936 Montreux Convention, which of course limits the capability of other countries introducing military ships in the Black Sea for longer than very short periods of time, a very serious problem for NATO deployments, and an issue that, of course, on which Turkey insists a great deal. And the question is, would a NATO Black Sea maritime patrol mission be possible? Are there any solutions to which Georgia can contribute in order to enhance the NATO-wide presence in the region? NATO, of course, already has 3 countries that are members in the Black Sea.
First of all, I would like to emphasize that the NATO's maritime forces presence on the Black Sea, first of all, and the east flank of Black Sea. This is a very important part of security on the east flank of Black Sea. That's why we are asking our friends and allies to be presented on the Black Sea and Georgia seaports as much as possible. Because it's, of course, a strong message for regional players. At the same time, this is a real security guarantees for Georgia. What about the Montreux agreement you mentioned? And, you know, for us, the Black Sea, this is a new dimension, new opportunity for cooperation with NATO. The Black Sea security and Black Sea cooperation, this is how Georgia can figure out its new role on the NATO security infrastructure. And of course, we fixed already our position that Georgia is more than ready to be more active, to take on itself more important role on Black Sea security in cooperation with our allies, first of all, NATO, and at the same time with our strategic partner, United States, I mean also.
Thank you for that. We've got a question relating again to the Black Sea from Dr. Elaine Melikishvili, who is asking, if the Black Sea is so important to Georgia, why did you cancel the Anaclea project. Does it make much sense?
First of all, we didn't cancel the Anaclea deep sea port project. We always were committed to that, and I personally was always stated that the Anaclea deep sea port, this is the future of this country. And this is not only about economy, this is about security at the same time. And even more, I can assure you that the government will retender this project for next 2021 year, because we fully realize when we are talking about connectivity, when we are talking about linking the Georgia through Black Sea to the EU, there is no other solution than developing the deep sea port on Georgia's Black Sea coast. That's why, for us, very important is who will be the partner in this project. That's why we understand that we have to be more prepared for retendering this project. And at the same time, we always, in discussions with our strategic partners, have fixed the idea that when Anaclea will happen, it will happen in cooperation with the United States and with the European Union, because we understand that it gives more leverage for the country, for Georgia, and it brings more substance in Anaclea's project as a strategic project connecting East and West, and it gives chance to this country to serve as a gateway for Europe to East. And that's why for us, Anaclea deep sea port is so important. And finally, I would like to say that the Anaclea as a project doesn't depend to private investors. So this is a project of future of this country. And that's why we always were so careful when it comes to the deep sea port in Georgia. And that's why we are committed that it will happen. It will happen in cooperation with our Eastern ally or Western allies, and it will be retendered in 2021.
I know, Prime Minister, that we talked about Russia in various questions, but I have a more direct question from Mike Seaman, who served as a diplomat in Georgia and is now an independent consultant, and is asking, what practical steps can Georgia take to improve relations with Russia, or at least put them on a more predictable basis, given Georgia's Euro-NATO aspirations? Or are we doomed to have a rather tense relationship with Moscow in this respect?
Unfortunately, the reality is that there is very limited steps Georgia can make alone. It simply, unfortunately, doesn't work, and our experience for the last 2 decades shows it. Of course, what we can do, this is we remain committed to a peaceful resolution of the problem, and we try to bring this message, first of all, to our Abkhazian and South Ossetian citizens, and this is what we are trying to do. When it comes to Russia, when Russia violates agreement, ceasefire agreement from 2008, and even more when Russia is increasing the number of troops on Georgia's territory in South Ossetia and Abkhazia, there is no real ground, unfortunately, for real and substantial discussions. You know that we are in several formats with Russia, such as Geneva, which is very, very important for us, because this is only one format when Russia is presented as a side of conflict, and at the same time around the table are sitting European Union, United States, OBSE, and this is the very important format for us. Yes, Russia is trying to undermine this format, but we with our partners are trying to increase the level of this format, and it's a substantial part, but pragmatic approach from Georgia's perspective is that it's very risky for us to stay alone face to face with Russia. That's why, and everything is happening in the region and wider shows us that in collaboration with allies and our friends, only possible to get some kind of achievements with Russia. Otherwise, it's simply not difficult. It's simply impossible. Simply impossible. And you know that we have only one red line. This is territorial integrity and sovereignty of our country. And otherwise, we are very flexible. We can discuss each and every issue with Russia, but when we do not see the readiness from that side, it's very difficult.
Thank you, and thank you for being so frank about a discussion that is obviously not easy to put in public. Let me just conclude with two questions that are more about how you see your visions of Georgia. The first one is from Tamara Lord-Kipanidze, who is the chair of the British Georgian Society, who's asking about your national strategy for financial literacy. You know, how do you improve the financial literacy of a population? How do you bring together stakeholders from government, finance, education, and civil society in order to create a society fit for the 21st century? And the other question is from Lord Ashcroft, a senior British politician, who says that he's been to Georgia many times and he's met your predecessors as prime ministers in a variety of occasions. And he just wonders whether you could say a few words about how you see the state of the Georgian economy at this moment.
Financial literacy, this is very interesting question, because unfortunately, because of today's condition of education system of the country, we have to take care about literacy in different dimensions. When it comes to the financial literacy, of course, first of all, I have to mention the different platforms we have already in country, platforms for sharing the experience and information between civil society and government, as well as other stakeholders, I mean the business environment, finance sector, etc., etc. The last one, when it was clear that we have the real problems with financial literacy, it was when we adopted the pension reform. It was 2 years ago. It was very difficult to explain to our citizens how pension reform is important and how what does it mean for our economy. That's why we have very practical tools such as the Investment Council, by the way, supported by EBRD from London's office. And this council is an excellent platform for sharing the information between government and different stakeholders. Embassies, business associations, civil society, NGOs, all of them are presented on this platform. And even more, the latest development was when the head of this investment council announced a new program of financial literacy in the regions, increasing the level of financial literacy in the regions, because of there was some kind of problems with between society in microfinance organizations. So we understand that this is the real problem. We understand that we have to work on this direction, but at the same time, we are fixing that we have many other directions where we have to increase the literacy in our society. When it comes about the economy of country at this moment in COVID time, the matter is that We met 2020 year I would say in excellent condition in terms of economy. We had the 5% of economic growth. The microeconomic stability was excellent. We were supported by international organizations, and first of all by IMF. And by the way, Georgia was the first country in COVID time who finished the negotiation and started the new program with IMF. And it was very helpful for us because it helped us to have the more financial support for different IFIs. For today, we are in a pretty good condition, even through the IMF's assessment. This year we'll finish with minus 5.5% of economic growth, but next year we are facing something around 5% growth, what is pretty good. But this uncertainty in the region brings additional uncertainty in the economy. That's why for us this real war between Azerbaijan and Armenia brings more difficulties even in economy. But anyway, the future of this country is completely open, liberal market, because we understand that the resources of this country is limited. At the same time, we enjoy the very strong portfolio of free trade agreements with different countries, such as European Union, all our neighbors, China. Now we are in negotiation with India, Israel. So we are creating very strong portfolio of free trade agreements. And at the same time, we consider country as a platform serving trade flows between big economies, such as Turkey and Kazakhstan, for example, China and Europe. This is the future of this country. This is the only one way. How can we bring more benefits for our citizens? When you are a small economy with limited resources, there is no even one reason for closing the markets or supporting or protecting the different areas of economy. That's why this is completely open market with liberal economy, with very strong free trade agreements, and with huge potential to convert its geographical location in real benefits for economy and for citizens. This is our vision: a strong business society which will create the most jobs in the country, not government sector, only business and free economy. This is our priorities.
Prime Minister, this is a good note on which to end. I apologize to a lot of our members who were not able to put questions. We had quite a large audience. This, if you wish, is the good side of the current internet platforms. Prime Minister, we are very grateful to you for pointing out to us what are the main directions of your policy, and also for suggesting to us what are the areas on which the United Kingdom could become or remain more engaged with Georgia. I know you have a busy month ahead of you, but I think that what we can all say without any party affiliations is that we wish Georgia well, and Georgia's success is as much a factor in our own success. Thank you very much indeed for this session.
Thank you, Jonathan. It was very interesting. It was very important for me to start sharing the view of our government about the future of the country with RUSI and RUSI's member. Thank you.
Thank you, and goodbye from London.
Goodbye.